Still dealing with a summer cold, so I mean, time of recording, time this is posted, I should be well into recovery. I'm going to talk today just briefly about Legend, Ridley Scott's Legend. This is an odd movie in a lot of ways, and that includes in my sort of fandom of it. So, as a kid, like a lot of kids growing up in the 80s, I watched a lot of the stuff of that era, and there were a lot of fantasy and genre films being thrown at the screen at that time. It was a wildly creative decade, certainly the early half of the 80s. The very tail end of the 70s and the early half of the 80s was very creative when it came to genre film, and kind of a little golden era of genre film. Now, I saw Legend as a young boy, and I didn't really care for it. There were things in it I liked, and there were things in it that I found compelling, but I didn't really care for the movie. I thought Tom Cruise sucked, and I kind of thought Tom Cruise sucked outside of this movie, and not as a human being, that came later, but as an actor. I only had seen him in a few movies. I thought he was terrible in them all. I hated Top Gun. And I don't know how much of my dislike of Top Gun was some contrarian streak in me. I don't know. But I really disliked the film and didn't like Risky Business, never watched Cocktail. It was a whole thing. He was like everywhere, and I think that was part of it. Anyway, but I had seen Legend, and I thought he was so bad in it. But I had seen the American cut. Now, the American cut is what we had for a really long time. And the American cut's a weird beast because it's not, as far as I understand, a situation where the studio butchered a foreign film. It's more a case of Scott was so kind of gun shy after Blade Runner had bombed that he's like, I don't know what American audiences want. I'm going to give them what I think they want, which is just this butchered down version of the film. It's got this Tangerine Dream soundtrack that is not very good, and it's not really their fault. I think it was Tangerine Dream. I don't think I'm crazy on that. It's not their fault. They had, I think, 2 weeks to do the score. It's a whole thing, and it's just not a good movie. I over time came to kind of enjoy it in a weird way. I used to watch a lot of these movies on VHS, and I loved Labyrinth the first time I saw it. I loved The Dark Crystal when I saw it in the theater. I loved Lady Hawk, which is a movie with also score problems, but I still really enjoy the movie. Dragon Slayer, another one that I didn't really care for when I was really young because it was a little too dark for me, but I grew to like it over time. Neverending Story, loved it. But Legend, I didn't really like. But for some reason, it kept bringing me back, and I grew to kind of appreciate it for what it was. And then I saw the director's cut, and it was like, wow, it was a totally different movie. It flows differently. It flows better, I think. There's more build up to the reveal of the villain. Tom Cruise's performance, while not good, is much better than in the or other edit, because there are lines of dialogue that are so poorly done in the theatrical cut, and it's because you don't the emphasis seems weird because it's cut off like mid-sentence, or it starts mid-sentence. So it's a very stilted performance because the editing made it stilted. Anyhow, still not like an amazing performance. I still don't necessarily think he was the best choice for the role, but whatever. And Mia Sara she's doing a lot with not necessarily. I think it's actually a fascinating character. I don't know that it gets. I don't know that her performance and the script and the direction all quite gel to do it the justice I think that the character maybe needed, but I think you get at least enough to know it's there, if that makes any sense. And the rest of the cast is pretty cool. A lot of like strange character actors and things like that. I mean, of course, Tim Curry as Darkness is just on another level, as Tim Curry always is. But I also talk about this because, besides the fact that I think it is worth seeing the director's cut, and I know somebody said recently that it's always worth watching the director's cut of Ridley Scott films. And I do think, generally speaking, that's true. The one that jumps out at me that I would say is I think the director's cut is inferior to the theatrical cut would be Alien. And I also believe that that's one where Scott was very happy with the theatrical cut. The director's cut, I think, was really more of a well, we had this footage, so let's restore it for a special edition, as opposed to this was my original vision. I think that the theatrical cut of Alien is a fantastic movie, and I don't think the director's cut adds anything to it. I think it's only interesting as a curio for a fan. That just that I think is just true. And I would argue that the cut that is labeled as the director's cut of Blade Runner is not good. I think the theatrical cut of Blade Runner, which has its problems, is a solid movie, which has its problems. And I think that the final cut of Blade Runner is fantastic, and I think maybe matches his vision more, or whatever. I think it's a very good film, and it's not vastly different from the director's cut, but for some reason the director's cut, the vibe is off, the rhythm is off. It just, for me, it didn't work at all. I watched that director's cut and I was like, oh, it feels unfinished. It feels wrong. Whereas the final cut I watched and it was like, oh, there we go. And then of course there's Kingdom of Heaven, which, the theatrical cut is a movie I saw. And then the director's cut's actually a really pretty awesome historic epic. And things when you watch the theatrical cut and you're just like, oh, well, that's convenient. Because there's like 20 minutes of plot cut out that explain why that happened. It's not just, oh, that's convenient. So anyhow, Ridley Scott, he's an interesting director. I don't like most of his contemporary work, and I absolutely loathe what he's done with the Alien franchise in his later films. But this is an interesting one and worth checking out, especially for fantasy fans, because it is very odd, and it feels more in line with Labyrinth or with Grimm's fairy tales or something. It has an extreme artificiality, which is kind of awesome. The one weird thing I find about it is that it's a very, I think a very kid-friendly and a kind of a, like the Grimm's fairy tales, it's dark, but in a way that I think kids really enjoy. Except there's one sequence in this that is really exceptionally gruesome and feels like something from an R-rated movie. Now, this was rated PG. It is mid-'80s PG, which was starting to get much more childish or kid-friendly, whereas 70s PG would now, a lot of 70s PG movies would be R today. But this, there's a sequence in the kitchen. A dude's butchering a dude. And he's still alive, and you can see it. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's really, really dark. It's not off screen. It's not implied. There it is. And so, I think that whole kitchen sequence is so crazy, over the top, brutal, and violent that it might not go over as well with kids as it could. Now, I saw it as a kid. I think I just didn't register so much what was going on. But yikes. So anyway. I also want to, just from a gaming perspective, I just wanted to bring it up because it is a film that inspired some ideas for me in gaming. And I think that Darkness is a cool villain. You get the idea that maybe he's supposed to be like the son of the devil or something like that, but he's kind of a cool big bad. The whole thing, everything's kind of tied in. You've got, Darkness wants to end the day, so he has stolen the unicorn's horn. It's a quest to get the unicorn horn back and restore the proper order. It's all good material for a gaming scenario or a short campaign or what have you. There's some great locations. There's some great encounters. Meg Mucklebone, I think her name is, played by Robert Picardo. The swamp hag is like really creepy and cool. Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. The goblins are really cool, chaotic goblins. They're a little more in keeping with traditional fairy goblins as opposed to like D&D goblins or Lord of the Rings goblins or something. But they're pretty cool. I like them. I think they're neat little critters and some fun performances there. And it's got some cool practical effects and everything. It also has like ways to think around problems that are it's more than just a big sword wins the day kind of stuff. So yeah, I think for a gamer, I think it's worth checking this movie out for sure. It is an odd film. It's an odd film in the genre. It's an odd film in Scott's filmography. It's an odd film in Cruise's filmography. But you know, it's a cool one. It's a weird one. It's one that has grown on me a great deal over the years, and I think it's one where the director's cut is it's night and day. It's like a totally different movie. So anyhow, until next time, take care.